Howdy everyone. Welcome to Inside Russia. My name is Konstantin and I'm streaming live from the very heart of Russia, from south of Russia. And I'm giving you another update on what's happening in Russia today, right now, currently. Thank you for joining. Welcome. I hope I have a pretty interesting message for you all today. Without further ado, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you remember what perestroika and glasnost are? I actually am old enough to remember. I remember quite well, and I was growing up with glasnost and perestroika. It's actually one of the first concepts that I got in my life, I learned in my life, because I was a young kid. When I first heard pluralism of opinions, which is the grandfather of perestroika and glasnost, or not a grandfather, but I'd say a father, then I'd say I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10, and perestroika glasnost followed. I actually would like to take you back some 40 years, 45 years, and remind you what actually happened in the USSR, what perestroika and glasnost were, how they actually changed my country back then, the USSR, and why we need glasnost and perestroika right now in Russia today. I would like to make parallels between back then and now. Okay. So the year is 1985, and communism at its peak. The old leader dies, he could barely walk, he could barely talk, and this younger man, Mikhail Gorbachev, becomes the communist boss, the top guy, the top dog. The country is frozen in time at that point. Everyone understands that there are changes needed for Soviet Union because something is not going well. Again, year is 1985, and one of the first things Mikhail Gorbachev does, and he actually goes out and publicly tells everyone that it's okay to have a different opinion. Wow! What a fresh concept. What he said was pluralism of opinions. You see, before Gorbachev, there was only one opinion. You were right always as long as you agreed with the party line, okay? That was so much for, different opinions. And if you had a different opinion, you could actually be prosecuted by the authorities. What Gorbachev did, he planted a virus of freedom in people's minds. He said, it's okay to have a different opinion. It's okay. Fresh, new concept. My parents were amazed. All adults around me were amazed. Pluralism of opinions was talk of the town, talk of the year, talk of the country. It was the talk. Okay. Next, perestroika and glasnost followed. Perestroika is nothing but modernization of economy. Perestroika was the term describing that the society needed a complete overhaul. It was very obvious that something was going very wrong, and Soviet economy was not doing well. There were food lines everywhere, there was deficit of consumer goods, low quality of goods produced and manufactured in the USSR. Import was the king. Something was going majorly wrong. So, therefore, something needed to be done. Mikhail Gorbachev, as soon as he came to power, he pronounced that perestroika was needed. I think a following year after he became the communist boss. That was another talk of the town, talk of the year. If we had something like the Times Man of the Year magazine or publication in the USSR, I am pretty sure that one year, Man of the Year would be the term pluralism of opinions, and the following year would be perestroika, and the following year would be glasnost. So perestroika, complete overhaul of Soviet economy. To be honest with you, it was more of a talking than doing, because communists, they were not very effective managers. They were very effective ideologists, but when things came down to business, they weren't very good. But at least that was the talk, that we needed to work and live differently in new ways. We needed to change the way we lived. And the third thing that followed was a complete bomb, was glasnost. Whoa! Glasnost, in my opinion, changed everything in the USSR. Glasnost simply meant that we had some kind of a freedom of speech. The glasnost in Russian is nothing less than freedom of speech. We could speak on different topics. Glasnost was there. Glasnost could be seen and heard everywhere. One of the results of glasnost that American TV was invited to Soviet TV. That was a very bad move for the Soviet ideology, let me tell you. I made an entire video about how I first watched NBA and how Los Angeles Lakers contributed to the demise of the USSR. And I truly think so. Back in 1987, we first watched NBA games, and our world has never been the same. Then we started seeing American channels on Soviet TV once in a great while. Like one of the things, we had something like NBC in Soviet Union. Basically, they took an entire day of NBC programming and showed us to us. There was a movie, tons of commercials, and the entire country was watching. That was glasnost. Glasnost was people started speaking against the Communist Party. At least, at first they started speaking softly, but then their rhetoric changed, and they started being very, very harsh towards the very end of the 80s. Okay, at first people were kind of like, they were allowed to speak up their opinions. They couldn't believe it, so to speak. They were very like touching this concept, okay? They would speak a little bit and wait and see what happens next, okay? And then when they understood that nothing happens, they're not prosecuted, they started speaking up more and more, you know. Independent media, believe it or not, was born in the USSR because Mikhail Gorbachev allowed Soviet people, to create small businesses. They were called cooperativы. Cooperations, I don't know how to translate it. Cooperations, like small micro businesses, okay? And one of the first businesses was an independent newspaper. It was called Kommersant, okay? Let me tell you, it was a fresh air, a gulp of fresh air. Glasnost was something else. I remember it quite well. You see, the end of 80s was very tough time economically. there was deficit of everything. To get food, you had to stand in line. To get clothing, electronics, whatever, you had to stand in line. You have to look for it, go and search for it, at different stores and try to negotiate with the sellers, the store clerks, so pay them extra bribes so that give it to you, that sell it to you instead of somebody else. It was really tough time, but it was liberating at the same time, because after all those decades of living in the USSR without being able to speak freely, people all of a sudden gained this ability to speak, well, somewhat freely. One of the first topics was the repressions of Stalin and his surrounding, and so many millions of Russians actually were executed, murdered, because no one had been able to talk about that before, and all of a sudden, in the late 80s, organizations like Memorial started appearing. Was very interesting, liberating time. That was time of very, very fast changes. I liked it. I didn't like the country, but that atmosphere of changes, I still remember and I still like it. Now, that was back in the USSR. Three things. Economy was going down the drain. Second thing, it was understood that the changes needed to be introduced into the country. And the third thing is relative lack of freedom of speech, and then all of a sudden, glasnost allowing to speak freely, more or less freely, of course. And I was sitting, looking at the news today, and I caught myself thinking of one thing. I said, wait a second. It looks more and more every day that the same conditions that were in the USSR in the early 80s and mid 80s, they start appearing here in Russia right now. Economy is going down the drain. Right now, you gotta understand, right now things are not bad. Most people, still haven't lost their jobs. Most people still getting paid. Lots of people have lost jobs, but it's not an epidemic yet. Okay? We're somewhere in the beginning. The sanctions have been placed upon Russia, and they have started taking effect, but it's not so immediate. The effect will be midterm, not short term, not long term, definitely. But in the short term, we still can go ahead and buy Western products in our stores, food stores, Western products in different stores that are still open all over our cities. We still can find foreign cars that are left in stock and had been imported before February 24th, things like that. So hasn't been immediate crush of the economy. So we are still living somewhat decent lives. But midterm effect, things start happening. And I would say midterm is towards the end of the year, and we're going to be seeing big changes in the economy. And the long-term effect is going to be, in my mind, in my opinion, it's going to be devastating for the Russian economy, because Russia has lost its biggest, strongest, most reliable, most valuable customer, who was buying oil and gas, European countries. Okay, the new sanctions state that European countries cannot buy Russian oil beyond 2022, and they start cutting down on natural gas consumption from Russia a great deal. So that's going to take a huge effect. And it might be same effect as that would lead to the same or similar situation as we had in the USSR in the 80s. In other words, things will not be well. So that's the economy. Perestroika. Well, it is very clear right now that our country needs economic perestroika. Things that have been developing, they stopping working right now. They stopping to work right now. It is clear that economic paradigm, business paradigm that we had been living in stop working. Okay, conditions of markets have changed tremendously. Even top officials of Russian Federation, Elvira Nabiulina, the head of central bank, Vladimir Putin himself, the president, they have said that Russia is up to economic challenges. It is obvious that we need perestroika. And it is obvious that we need glasnost. Lots of independent media has been announced as agents of foreign states. There have been new laws introduced, signed into existence, that greatly limit ability of Russian citizens, Russian reporters speak on some topics. And basically, in other words, that's censorship. It has been introduced in Russia, and lots of Russians are afraid to speak freely on some issues, plain and simple. They don't want to contradict Russian government. And there are some laws, if we say something that contradicts information that Russian government creates and informs people on, then that's a misdemeanor and or a criminal offense. There's a huge fines and there's possible time behind bars. In my opinion, any limitations of free speech for any country is not a good thing. And I think that our country needs to introduce new glasnost. Glasnost in 2022. I think that we need pluralism opinions back. And I think that we would benefit greatly from this. I think that Russians should not be afraid to speak up their minds, even if they're mistaken. It's okay to be mistaken, right? But it's absolutely necessary to being able to speak freely, okay? And if people make mistakes, government has all the means to correct them by releasing truthful information and proving the point, giving the facts. Because people, when they're given the facts, Russians smart, they will, if they're given the facts and they agree that that's the truth, they probably would agree with that, and their opinion would be the same. But the government needs to allow people to speak up. And that's what I think. The situation back in the 80s, late 80s, and back in the early 2000s, 2020s are pretty similar in economic sense, in the way the country is operating sense, and in the way of freedom of speech sense. So I never thought that something like this I would be speaking about in 2022. Oh my. But you know what? Hey, it's life. Things happen. And our life is much deeper and much more colorful than any of our thoughts about the life. There are two questions that I have. Who is the Gorbachev, the new Gorbachev, who's going to introduce the ideas? And is the Russian society ready for new perestroika and new glasnost? Just as if it was ready back in 1986. Is it ready? I'm not sure. My friends, this has been a message that I wanted to deliver. Thank you very much for joining. I would like to turn on the comments now. Please keep this chat clean. Yesterday was a very interesting topic. Yesterday was a lot of heated discussions, and the mods had to work extra hard. Thank you very much. The mods are here today, again, and every day. So please keep this chat clean. I would like to tell you a couple of rules about the chat. Please use common sense before post anything. Common sense is the king. No snide, crude remarks or and hostile comments, please. No crude usernames. English only. No other languages. If you come here to troll, please think twice before posting, because you'd be banned very, very fast. This chat is for subscribers only. There is a blacklist of a few topics that I don't want to discuss here. There anything about Ukraine, number of casualties in Ukraine and in the Russian army, criticism of top Russian leadership, and everything referring to actions of the Russian army in Ukraine. We are living in Russia, and Russia has some federal laws that regulate what we can and cannot speak about, and these things we cannot speak about. So please abstain from posting about that. And that's it. Turning on the chat. Thank you very much. Again, please keep it clean. There you go. Chat is on. Lorna is the champion today, number 1. Reese Gray is the second, pretty close. Hang on. Let me do my usual thing. Howdy, howdy everyone again. If you're just joining the chat and missed my message, I suggest at the end of chat you go back and watch and where I deliver the message, that part. I see usual suspects. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you. Glad to see you, my friends. We have a fantastic community and the mods are here. Thank you so much for coming back. I see that Donna Olson was the first one today with Super Chat. I remember like it was yesterday when it was announced that independent media would be allowed without fear. I remember how wonderful that news was to hear. Donna, I remember as if it was yesterday as well. It was liberating. We felt like we were drunk without drinking. We felt like the bad time is over. The new great time is to follow. The future is fantastic, you know. Opportunities are there, and we're gonna be living in a brave new world very soon. Little did we know. Oh gosh. Donna, thanks for the message. Thanks for the super chat. Reese Gray, hello from Canada, Mr. Popular. Hearing Russian citizen views on this time period has been fascinating, despite knowing these events beforehand. Thanks for sharing. Let's pray history doesn't repeat. Well, thank you so much, Reese. Great to see you. The history, unfortunately, has repeated itself, not completely, but one part of history has repeated itself. Cult member, hi there. Thank you. Every single dollar counts. I appreciate your message. If you want me to notice your message or answer your question, please put it in caps. Otherwise, I'll have very, very hard time reading it. Donna, another message from you. On the side note, when I worked for a major airline, I recall coworkers taking with extra pairs of Levi's to your neck of the woods, gifting. Yeah, I remember those times. Levi's was quite something else. You know, if you had Levi's, you were cool. Levi's cost entire salary of my mom, about 200 rubles, perhaps even more on the black market, and she was the head accountant of a large factory. Imagine that. And it was hard to find them. Even people with money, they were looking for them. They couldn't find them. You know, it was a pretty dangerous affair. Wild wolf pack. Howdy, howdy. Ludmila from London. Hello. Martin. Isa. Welcome, Glasnost. Well, I hope we have Glasnost. I think that the Russian government would disagree with me about freedom of speech. I heard that from one of the officials recently saying, hey, Russia is like the freest country in the world in terms of freedom of speech. Well, we still have a right to pluralism of opinions, right? So I'm kind of voicing a little different opinion, but that's just my opinion. I could be mistaken, of course. I could be misinformed, you know. What do I know? I'm just a little guy. Reese, I ran out of fast data, so I'm out of game for a week. No problem. Allison, hello, hello. Mirage, nice to see a good message. I totally agree with that. Scott, how do you think Chernobyl in 1986 factored into the events you mentioned earlier? Well, Chernobyl happened in April of 1986. That was just the beginning of Glasnost, and I think it could have been one of the events that actually triggered introduction of Glasnost, because people were very, very upset. Chernobyl was something, not a needle in a hay of you can easily hide. You know, we all understood what happened, and we all understood that the government was criminally hiding the facts from us for 10 days. And I still remember that day. My birthday was 2 days later. You know, it's 10 years old. It happened. How it was factored into the events. It was one of the triggers, I think. Airborne Snail, howdy, howdy. Rent Spiral, thank you so much. Pacific Rim, yes, sorry it's happening to Russia, sad days, indeed. Happy Juneteenth, Constantine. Thank you, Annette. You know, I really like that a lot of you thanking mods and appreciating the work that mods are doing. Me too. I also appreciate very much. Thank you. Astro Girl, I never realized that Russians think of Russia and the USSR as two distinct countries. Of course they were, rather than the transition of one country. Well, I can only speak to myself, for myself. I'd certainly distinct the USSR and Russia, two completely different countries. The USSR was a really strange country slash union of many countries, and with very strange rules. Russia was much more simple, was much more right, was much more transparent. Definitely Russia has had its own problems, but it's incomparable with the USSR, you know. Joy from Vancouver Island, hello. Melody, hi from Daytona Beach, and Melody sends a super chat. Wasn't against the law to own anything Western in the 80s and early 90s. Melody, no, it was not against the law to own personal things such as jeans, you know, clothes. Even you can buy a car, theoretically. Some very wealthy people could buy a car. Cars like famous singers, there were very few of them, but you could see like one or two Mercedeses driving in Rostov, and everyone knew who that Mercedes belonged to. For example, one of the Mercedeses was belonged to one of the famous football player, and everyone knew who he was. Okay, one of his requirements to stay and play for the local club was for him to get a Mercedes. So things like that. So it was not illegal. And early 90s, Soviet Union fell apart. Russia was born. Russia was totally free. The freest country in the world. Anything went in Russia. Okay, but so answering your question, no, it was not illegal. Thanks, Rain Carnell. Good evening, my friend. Another great message today. Thank you so much. How are the post-Soviet Russians taking this withdrawal from the world? Keep up the great work. It's not an easy question to answer, and it certainly is not a simple question. This is going to be quite a long message, and you know, it's up for one of the streams or one of the videos. Okay. In short, lots of people not taking it well. Some people don't understand what is happening. It's a lot. Well, I just talked to my relatives on Sunday. It was a quite a big, you know, meeting of different families, and some of my distant relatives came from other like farms from far away, and I was talking to them, and I was wondering, they're clueless. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand what's coming to them, what's coming to all of us as a country, because they think, well, it's gonna be over soon and things will go back to normal. And when I say no, they won't, they look at me like I'm crazy. Of course they will. Like, what do you mean they won't? So you see, lots of people are absolutely clueless. Of course, I can be mistaken. I'll be very happy to be mistaken. Okay, I'll be very happy if Russia goes back to normal, but I highly doubt it. Brianna B, thank you so much. $10. Any negotiations now are admitting defeat of fault. Sorry to be Debbie Downer on this one, but Perestroika is a long time away from now, forward or backwards. Brianna, not much I can react to this. It is very hard not to agree with you. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thanks for the message. Don Walters, thank you very much. And Bear 13, I agree this is a similar situation. However, the pressures involve the whole world is the same. As they say, history may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. Excellent. Very well said. It's definitely not this very same situation as it was in 1980s, but it's not repeated, but it's rhymed. Excellent. I'm gonna make a copy of this, so I will not forget this. Deborah Casey, thank you for your $10 message. Pretty strong message. Dave in Port Florida. Hello, Maria. Elsha, thank you so much. I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not so clever. I wish I was. If I was clever, I'd be in a different place. Instead of sitting here, stupid. Cult member, thank you. Thank you for all you have done for us. Much love from Florida. Stay safe. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you have been doing for me. Coming to the stream, watching the messages, some sending super chats. Totally okay if you don't, but it's great to have you here in this community, and it's great to converse with you. That's fantastic. There is an issue of, there's another similarity, okay? In late 80s, there was an exodus from the USSR. The exodus was, I would say, en masse. I don't really even know how to find the word. Meaning, people who could leave the USSR by some means, they usually left. Right now, we're seeing same kind of exodus, not as en masse, okay, and it's not that difficult to leave Russia. Back then, it was difficult to leave because there was Iron Curtain. You needed special permission, you need special passport. Now, all you have to do is just buy yourself a plane ticket and go. Okay, but the situation is not repeated, but it's rhymed. There's definitely an exodus. Not such a huge scale as back in the 80s, but we're seeing something very, very similar. Thank you for $5 from David, Parish, Florida. I remember in the late 80s having Russian visitors on board of the aircraft carrier I served on. That was interesting times. Yep, I remember the first TV bridge. We called it TV bridge. Vladimir Posner and Bill Donahue. That was just a window that opened for me into a completely different world. I saw the Martians in the United States. I believe it was 1987. Oh, it was fantastic. AK77, thank you so much. Very powerful message received and appreciated. Thank you. Devon Harris, did black markets exist in the USSR? Better believe it. Oh, you better believe it existed. How we doing on time? Still 18 minutes. I'm gonna tell you a story how I made my first money. And if yes, what items did they offer? Stay strong. They offered anything. Anything. Okay? Soviet Union, the planned economy was really strange type of economy. In some places, you could buy certain things. In other places, you could buy other things. And it was always like that. Things that were in demand in this place, you could not buy. So you could buy some things. For example, you could go and into a mountainous village in Kazakhstan and buy Adidas shoes, okay, at a regular store. But they didn't need Adidas shoes, okay? They needed like rain shoes for farming, and they didn't have that. We in Rostov, we needed Adidas. Everyone wanted to have an Adidas shoes, right? But we had all kinds of farming stuff, and no one needed it. So some people would buy things here. They would fly to other parts of country and sell them. It was a criminal offense, and if they caught by police, they would spend some time in prison. That's usually how KGB hooked people. They would catch people like that, and they would sign papers, and they would become KGB informants. So, my first money I made 50 rubles, probably even more, 70 rubles. 1988, I'm 12 years old. My mom takes me to Moscow from Rostov. First time I go to Moscow. Then after that, we go to Lithuania, Klaipėda. We had relatives there, right? So I go to a huge black market called Luzhniki in Moscow, and I buy a football, a ball, okay? And we go to Klaipėda, and then Klaipėda had direct direct lines with Poland and Yugoslavia and Germany by sea. So Klaipėda in 1988 was much more free than, let's say, we're in Rostov. So they seceded from the USSR the following year. Anyway, there are plenty of different goods, for Western goods for sale. I buy sunglasses and I buy a hoodie. And of course, I ask my mom for money. And it's fairly cheap. And I buy lots of chewing gum. I buy it for myself, but when I come back to Rostov, I start thinking, hey, I can sell all this stuff and make like extra money. So I go to a black market along with one of my uncles, and he was, buying and selling things constantly, making money like that. So I ask him to take me. He takes me. I take my football, my hoodie, my sunglasses, and I triple my money. Triple. I make as much as my mom makes a month, okay? And it was my first money. I made like 100 rubles, I think, something like that. It was absolutely amazing feeling. That's how I fell in love with, making money, so to speak. 12 years old, August of 1988. I saw a couple super chats. Abacus, thank you so much. Glasnost, otherwise history will be repeated. A few years ago, you were on... CCP is China, right? Well, hard not to agree with your message. I agree. In a few years, if nothing is changed, we will be run by China. That's my opinion. We're just setting ourselves for a trap. Sea saving is good for you. What is one sea saving? Didn't understand that. Carl, does UPS still make deliveries? No, UPS does not. We cannot mail anything to the United States. That's it. 46 and 2, howdy. Frank in Texas. Susan, thank you. David Moyers, how many grams of tea do you use in your teapot? I usually use 1 tablespoon or 1 or 2 teaspoons. James Rhodes, Karamurza. Yeah, it's okay to say that, of course. I mean, you can admire anyone you want to. That's okay with me, and I think it would be okay with everyone. Rochelle Ranan, Vladimir Pozner was and is a very powerful, valuable interpreter of Russia to the West, to the US, and vice versa. Totally agreed. He's a great bridge between the two countries. Fantastic guy. I like him very much. A great reporter. But back in the USSR, he was part of Russian Soviet propaganda. He admitted it himself, and he feels very guilty about that. But Hey, you cannot take songs, words out of a song, you know? Edna, is there a Gorbachev now? Well, the real Gorbachev is still alive. I'm not sure how well he is. There were news today that he's not doing well. His health is failing. He had diabetes for years, but he's over 80 years old now, you know, so the guy has done well. Santa, I just learned that 77 of deaths, old 14 through 18-year-olds in America, was due to the drug fentanyl. This is another world crisis no one talks of. Santa, that's a very serious topic and very heavy. But the thing is, I've never been exposed to any drug problems, any drug issues. I haven't done any drugs ever in my life. None of my relatives has. None of my friends have. So I don't really. This part of life is far away from me. Okay, so I can't really talk about this. I'm not an expert. I'm not even a newbie. I'm completely ignorant of this part of life. MM93 must win. Thank you so much for your message. Wild Wolfpack, were there lawyers in the USSR? Yes, they were. They were. But they didn't really decide much. They were just to show that there was a somewhat fair legal process in the Soviet Union. Mr. Pipes. Why Mr. Pipes? Jeffrey. Sarah, silly question, but wasn't the government aware that certain businesses would leave because of the special operation? I'm just amazed. Good question. Well, obviously not. I saw quite a few reactions from top officials in the first few days when large companies started announcing, and they actually started leaving right away. Russian officials were absolutely in shock. Okay, so obviously they didn't think that the businesses would leave. Tracy Hendrickson, thank you so much. And Catherine Hughes, thank you. Thank you for your super chats, messages. Love listening to you too. Well, I love you coming back. Thank you. Doubt will remember what normal is if it returns. Unfortunately, yes. Watching the time. You know, I caught myself thinking today. Um, I want to go back to the 80s. You know, I would love to live in the USA in the late 80s. Fantastic time. There's so much stinky substance happening right now and everywhere, okay? Then it would be just so nice and peaceful to go back in time and live there for 10 years. Just enjoy life, you know. No major changes. And when they happened, they were actually good, positive. Everyone was happy. Douglas, thank you so much. In the 60s, I was in the US Army, West Germany, facing Soviets to East. Had mutual inspection with Russians. Fall of the USSR was fantastic idea. Perestroika, glasnost again easier. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, interesting story. It was definitely fantastic idea. I wouldn't say that it was whatchamacallit, fantastic idea, but I would say like the fall of USSR. I would say the birth of new Russia was a fantastic idea. Matt, thank you so much. What kind of tea you're having this evening, or is that really whiskey? Yeah, of course it's whiskey. Busted. Yeah, it's a single malt, 21 years old. It would be whiskey if it were me. No, it's not whiskey. It's tea from Ceylon, from Sri Lanka. It's called Highland Premium Sri Lanka regular black tea. And this is one of the best I've had so far. It's pretty strong. Thank you. Someone sent me a message saying that Twinings, that I say Twinings, it's actually Twinnings. I would like to get good Twinnings, but the only way I can get it is when I go to London. I usually buy me a bulk. In Russia, Twinnings is no good. Hoodoo, Texas. Constantine, how about taking us onto a tour of an Eastern Orthodox church? I'm not religious, but I love old architecture, and churches are tops. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. I will see what I can do. Thank you so much, Hoodoo, Texas. Good idea. Vicky McCollum, thank you so much. You are amazing. Thanks for the super chat. Cult member, I see your super chat deleted. Could you please email me and let me know what you wanted to ask? Perhaps I will answer you in the mail. Watching time. Time's not up. There's still a couple minutes left. Scott, thanks Inside Russia for everything you do. I'm so happy to be here. Well, Scott, thanks for coming back all the time. Thank you. I feel this is a great community and it's very friendly for the most part, except for the trolls, and trolls get shut down very fast. Andrew, thank you so much for £5 evening. We can send you Twinnings sanctions. Ballsy message today. You'll find yourself in a cell next to Navalny if you're not careful. Well, a lot of people say, please be careful. Tell me what's the recipe of being careful. I say I pick and choose my words so I don't break any Russian laws. Okay, that's how I'm being careful. That's the only way I know. If you know any other way, let me know. I hope I'm not gonna be finding myself in a cell next to Navalny because, well, at this point there's no reason for them to put me. I haven't said anything. Like, I haven't called anyone to actually stand up and do things, and stuff like that. Marilyn, thanks for sharing with us daily. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marilyn. Lloyd, hi from Minnesota. Scott, I have not tried the new McDonald's replacement. No. I will just once, just for the heck of it, I will never ever go and spend my money there. but I will go and film and try once. Richard, I'm worried for the poor people in Russia when the sanctions finally take hold. Well, you know what? Me too. I also worry for the people. And let's see how Russian government takes care of people, because it's been saying left and right, oh, things will be all right, we'll prevail, we will survive. We'll see soon. We'll see how poor people are treated. Brianna, thank you so much again. Please do show some time on the dynamics of the Baltic Sea trade routes that are in jeopardy now. If you can talk about it. I can talk about it, but I just don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not really familiar with this issue. Okay, now we should be starting praying. Um, Cult member, thank you so much. My friends, time's up. Miss me, we free you. Yeah. Oh my. Hopefully you won't have to. Folks, let me ask you to join me in prayer. I really like praying at the end of every live stream. I keep on repeating this word, therapeutic, but praying is not therapeutic. Speaking to you is therapeutic, but praying is just feels good. I don't know how else to explain it, so let's do it. If you're religious, please join me. You know the drill. If you're not, then join me anyway. I'm asking you, please send good vibes and good hopes, good wishes, good energy to people that we pray for and about. Let's do it. Dear God, thank you for giving us a wonderful day. Thank you for putting food on our tables, giving us roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with good people, loved ones, family, friends. I am asking you and begging you, please stop the bloodshed in Ukraine as soon as possible. Please make it that no more people die, no more civilians, no more soldiers on both sides. It's just no more blood shed. Please touch people who make decisions. Touch their hearts and fill their hearts with love, passion, mercy. Please make their hearts softer so they make decision to stop the bloodshed and bring back peace between our countries. Please help all the Ukrainians who have been affected by this tragedy. The ones who are staying in Ukraine, who have lost, who have been affected, who have fled Ukraine for other countries. Please help them. Please help people who are helping these people, who are opening their hearts, their homes, their wallets, who are sending them prayers, and they're just wishing them well. Please help my country. Send my country angels, strong angels, with sharp swords who are led by Saint Michael to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country. Make it run by angels and have it shine again. Make it righteous. Please give us wisdom to raise our children the way that when they grow up, they make this world a better place, and they will never fight with one another, but just love each other. I'm asking for everyone who is in need of healing right now and hungry. Please give hungry ones food, feed them, and give the sick ones healing. Please perform miracles, make them feel better. Please help everyone who's praying along with me in this chat. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to pray and answer everyone's prayer and make everyone's wish come true. I would like to mention a few people who have reached out to me and asked to be mentioned. They need your help. Please touch their hearts and their heads and answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. They are Nine Veka, Michael, Alan, Rafaela, Anna, Yelena, Natasha, Jake, Michael, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Bonnie, Buzz, Anne-Mary, Jean-Paul, Paula, Janine, Michael, Brian's mom, Marlene, Nadi, Narnian Lady, Freddie, Susan S., Susan, Fiona, Sabrina, Madeline, Chirper, Ellen, Stephen, Paul, Sandy, Martin, Donald from Wisconsin. He asked me to pray, to mention his name in prayer, to pray for him and for his country, the United States. And I would like to ask you to pray, I'm asking everyone to pray for my country, Russia, as well. Priscilla, Micheline Beatty, Ariana. I have also 3 children on this list. Sebastian, Maverick, and specifically I would like to pray and ask everyone to pray for Britzel Andrews, a 4-year-old with leukemia. She's very sick and she needs your miracle. Dear God, we are here, a few hundred of us, praying in the stream for her. Please show your miracle, perform your miracle. She really needs to see how you perform miracles, and her family needs that too. They're asking you. We're also asking you. Please help her. Please help us all. Thank you very much, dear God. Amen. My friends, thank you very much for joining again. Thank you for a good stream. You are awesome and you rock as usual. Tomorrow I have another message for you at the same time, and I will all see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming today. Thank you, mods. Bye-bye.